Hello, and welcome to Class Solutions Dental Education Podcast, the podcast series where we share knowledge and experience to provide value to you and your dental practice. I'm your host, Phil Cole, and in today's episode, we are going to dive deep into the technologies and services shaping the healthcare delivery. And today, we're exploring a critical yet often overlooked component of patient experience and what it can do for the patient, and that is with merchant services. When we think about patient satisfaction, we're always typically focused on clinical care, waiting times, and the communication between the provider and the patient. But we never think about the financial touch points from copay collections at check-in to payment plans. Every financial interaction shapes how patients perceive their healthcare journey. And so today's episode, we're going to uncover, why merchant services are the unsung hero of seamless patient experience, how outdated payment systems can create friction points that both frustrate the team and the patient, the real impact of flexible payment options and patient satisfaction scores and stuff. So we are joined, and I'm so excited today because we are joined by an industry expert, Tim Ryan, CEO of Blueswipe. And I'm just going to tell everybody this one's going to be a situation where I think this is going to be a part two podcast because we have a ton of information to go over, and we're just going to really focus more or less on the patient experience today and share those insights. And so I am thoroughly excited to have Tim on our show or on the podcast today. So welcome, Tim. Give us a little bit of insight of yourself and Blueswipe and what we're going to go over today.
Yeah. Well, excited to be here. Thanks a lot, Phil. And always humbling to be called an industry expert. And it's crazy to think, but I've actually been in payments for 18 years. And that is because I literally started when I was 18 years old. So half my life now, because I'm 36, so 50% of my life has been in payments, which is pretty crazy to think about. But Blueswipe itself actually got started 10 years ago. And we originally started in Richmond, Virginia, and it was like a local company, focused local solely. And then back in 2018, we started to broaden our reach. And we had actually worked on a delivery system that would allow us to give the same level of quality of delivery to customers regardless of what state they're in. And so today we're actually in almost 40 states, and that's been a privilege as well. So yeah, I've been around for a while and been really excited about this topic. And what originally was a company that was very focused on all different types of industries, we now today have a customer base that is 40% in medical, and a heavy concentration of that is actually in dental. And that is where we're really looking to grow over the next handful of years.
That's awesome. So I guess let's dive in then. And like I mentioned with the one bullet point is that patient experience, right? I think it's just gigantic how we so many times, and as a coaching company with ourselves, we do the patient communication, how to make sure that thing runs through so well. But the importance of having patient experience go across the board and how it relates to the patient payment, I look at it as there's a couple different ones that pop in my head, and I just want you to kind of address each one. But time, ease of use, and then how it affects once again the collections and stuff, I think is big too. So give us a little insight on that patient experience and how it really can take a load off of the team and the patient with just those three topics. Time, first of all.
Yeah, happy to do so. And I'll start from the perspective of being a patient, because that was, I never went to dental school, I have no dentistry background. My experience with the dentist office was just going to get my teeth cleaned, to getting it worked on. And, been a long time payments guy, I'm used to checking out and paying for things at different places. And the dentist office that I was at for a number of years, I remember loving my dentist. It was kind of a small family practice. It was literally the dentist's sister that was the admin and did all the back office, and she was really good at it, and just really kind of tight team, small practice. But it was always this interesting experience when you get back up to the counter to go ahead and like check out, like maybe book that next cleaning or that follow-up visit. And it was everything was very paper driven. And then you have to get the card. I get my card out every time. I literally, and this is a true story, I actually forgot my wallet one time, and like had a call back to my wife, and she was able to get my card. She calls the card number in, and it was just like this whole experience that really made me think, I wonder if there's really an opportunity for us to be able to help kind of the dentists and kind of that dental space a lot more than what we had historically done at that point in time. And so I think what we've found now that we've really kind of built out solutions that specifically help practices, is having like different payment options and building the whole checkout experience around the customer's preferences creates this feeling that would hopefully mirror what they already had up until that point in time. It's going to be something that's customer centric, and one of the best ways to do that is to have like lots of options. Even if somebody just wants to hand you their card, you swipe it just like normal. One of the things that we have really leaned into is the ability to have text to pay, to be able to have a card on file, to be able to offer a variety of different ways that someone can pay. Makes me as a patient feel like you're really thinking about me, even if it's like, oh no, I'm just going to pay with my card right here, and bam, and do it every single time. The ability to then even have the card stored on file, these little things like this that just make this smooth checkout process. And on the flip side of that, I've had this experience as well. Is like, they go ahead and bill your insurance, and then you get like this letter in the mail, and you still owe like some amount of money. I remember one time it was like $70 or something like that. And I don't know if maybe this is, I don't think I'm unique in this, honestly, but if I
No,
get a letter in the mail and it's got a phone number to call to go ahead and make a payment, I mean, that thing's probably going to sit for like 2 weeks. And it's like this thing
easy.
that's nagging. It's like, oh my gosh, I gotta like, I gotta go grab it. And versus being able to have something that's a lot, even if they have a web link, I'll probably get to that in a week. Okay, like web link, go on, be able to pay online, a little bit simpler. If I get an email with a text, like a link that I can click and it can open up a web page, I can put my credit card number in. I'll probably get to that in a couple days. Soon I'll just add it to like one of my tasks and like, all right, let me go ahead and get this taken care of. But truthfully, if I get a text with a bill that I need to pay, I'll probably pay that within a few minutes.
I agree
And
100. I agree 100% with you. I just a real life experience with me too. That since you mentioned that from our hospital, or from our local doctor that we went, 17 cents. They sent me a bill for 17 cents because of something
wow,
that came out. And this is when you say patient experience, I totally agree because you gotta you everybody wants to pay differently. Other people, everybody has their own idea, right? Like I'm a huge
yeah,
Apple Pay guy with my phone, and it drives me nuts when I go into like a gas station or something. Like Home Depot
I'm
for
the
the
same way.
longest time did not have Apple Pay. You had to put a
Mm,
credit card in. So I quit going to Home Depot because I'm like, that frustrates me that I got to pull a credit card out. But 17 cents. And like you said, you could not pay through a internet browser type, like the web system. It was literally mail a check for 17 cents. Now, for them, the cost of what it cost, what they're paying for the stamp and everything to come to me, the
that's what I
postage,
was thinking.
and then all the paper. But then for me to send it back, I'm like, I'm not paying 40 cents, 50 cents, whatever the stamp is now to send back for 17 cents. You're just not getting paid. So but it's right there. It's like that, just you make it so difficult, and then it just really irritates me because like Home Depot is only 10 miles from my house, but I will drive the 25 miles to go to Menards because I can go in and use my phone.
Yeah, that's funny. I literally had the same experience. Fortunately, my wallet was in my car. I'm a big Apple Pay guy too. So I get to Home Depot's checkout, and I'm trying to do Apple Pay, and I'm like, it's not working. I call the clerk up. She's like, oh, we don't do that. Have to go. And that day I was actually in a rush, and so I had to go to my car, grab my wallet, come back in, hit the thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh. It's funny how these, like, we get used to these little conveniences, and then it's like you kind of expect it and almost like demand it. Like I was so upset that like Home Depot doesn't have Apple Pay. Like, what's wrong with you people? Is what I'm thinking. But yeah, you do get really used to these like little conveniences like that. It makes it simple, and then it changed your preference in that case.
Well, and when
So
you're saying, like, once again, patient experience, what we're talking about, I know that when we coach, a lot of times doctors will sit there and say, they don't have texting at all, not just text to pay. which you are 100%. If someone texts me something that says you owe $70 from a thing, I'll just text it right off my Apple Pay, right? Just boom, done.
Yeah.
But we have that patient experience all the time too when it comes to scheduling, a patient, or sending out reminders and stuff. And doctors will say to us all the time, "Oh, my patients is an older patient base. They won't do that." And then we make them do a 1 month survey of every patient that comes in. How would you like to be communicated? And I'm telling you, 95% of the time, no matter what the age of the person is, email, text. So it's like they don't want the old-fashioned phone call. They don't want the statement coming in the mail. So it once again to see the experience of what we've witnessed over these years with merchant companies that still don't have that is
Yeah.
amazing.
It's so common, even amongst, I found payments companies that are in the dental space, that like they have big contracts with big dental groups. They don't have some of these functionalities that almost now are becoming commonplace, and it's something that everyone expects and is totally going to demand. So I couldn't agree more.
So you mentioned text to pay. What are some of the other things that you have though for that ease of use and that, cut down time, that ease of use that, you have besides just text to pay to be able to make that
Yeah.
patient experience go?
Something like a text to pay, email, these functionalities, I mean, they're something that's going to be a one-time transaction. It allows the customer to pay based on their preference. And I think that just offering the preference, like you were talking about older, people sometimes say, hey, our patient base is a little bit, more mature and they don't really care for those. I think just the fact that you offer it makes me as a patient feel more thought of, like you're catering to me versus me catering to you. And so that concept in and of itself, we have seen add to patient experience. One of the things that then, as an additional add-on, that then really creates what they are now referring to as, removing the friction. Like you hear that term all the time in payments, like how do you remove friction from the payment process? Well, one of the ways that we've been able to do that is, okay, you go ahead, you get the credit card, you process it. We can actually have a vault set up where that credit card number is then tokenized, it's encrypted, and it's put onto the vault. So that way, every time that customer comes in, that patient rather, you're able to see their name. And if you wanted to just use the same card on file as a patient, you could literally say, hey, just charge my card on file. I don't have to get out my wallet, don't have to do Apple Pay. It's like, no problem, we've got it. And two different clicks, they can have completely do the transaction and you're out. And one of the things that everyone complains about with going to any, whether it's the doctor or if it's the dentist, is people don't like wait times. And
Right.
especially at the end, after you've already had your work done, you got your cleaning finished, whatever the procedure was, and now you're about to go out the door and you're kind of lingering there, trying to get a card, trying to get a payment, things are getting written down, passing it back, signing a receipt. You can eliminate all that by having a customer vault, allow the transaction to be seamlessly processed, completely encrypted and secure. And somebody can just, that extra 2 or 3 minutes sometimes makes the person feel like, oh, wow, that was painless. I got in and out so quickly. And so customer vaults, I found has been one of the big things. It just adds to that customer experience. And it's like everything that we think about when it comes to the payment process is stepping back and looking at it from a patient's point of view. What do they care about? How do they want to be catered to? What's the most convenient thing for them? And how do we make it a really smooth, frictionless process? And it makes them feel more taken care of. And if you put yourself kind of I found for me in that patient seat, which I've been in many times, then it's like, okay, this is something that even just shaves off 2 or 3 minutes, busy professionals trying to get back to work, and they love it.
Well, and you guys got hooked up with my personal dentist. So just, I mean,
Yeah.
a real plug on that is the fact that it was nice that when we switched and it was Apple Pay, that I could do that. But then the next visit in, is when that front desk said, hey, instead of you having to pull out your phone every time, do you just want us to hold your credit card on file? And it is, I mean, like you're out. I see my dentist I've been with for 25 years, and it's just like, see you later. I don't even have to worry about it, right? Because I'm the guy that says I don't need a receipt. I don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that my dentist, I've known him forever. He's not going to screw me. And so it's like I walk out the door and I don't have to worry about anything because, I used to call on him for years. So for me, I go in there as it's like family. I chat up so much stuff. Sometimes I would walk out and before you guys got there, they would call me and say, "Hey, can you give me a credit card over the phone? You walked out without paying." So
Yeah.
it just that kind of stuff is just incredible that you guys have that and that yet it's once again, I think today with this podcast is so important for those who are listening is that if your merchant services doesn't have that, how incredible, like you said, put yourself into that situation and how would you react? Because like I said, that Home Depot thing to me to this day, it drives me. They just got Apple Pay, by the way. So for
Oh
all the
wow. Yeah.
listeners, they got Apple Pay now. But that just drives me nuts that for years that like everybody and their brother has it, and you guys are one of the biggest known stores and you don't have it. So like you said, that patient just with that. So
And I'll tell you one of the times that I saw this play out in a negative way before, when I was dealing with my dentist, and they didn't have a system like this set up at all. I'd gone to the front. I needed to go ahead and pay my copay, but they had also recommended for me, I think it might have been Invisalign. They recommended something else, and I wanted to know how much of that could my insurance cover. So she was actually going to try to call, like look it up, see, okay, is there like was there a certain amount that they would cover for me? We also need to schedule the next visit. Somebody else finished their cleaning. They're right behind me. And they were just standing there as as I'm sitting at the chair, she's, going through the process, and I can hear them kind of shifting like side by side.
yeah,
They've got their like wallet out. I can tell like they're getting really annoyed. And I feel really bad because I'm like, I kind of want to know the answer to this. I wasn't in a rush at all. I was fine to wait. And I think what she ended up doing was just like saying, I think she just had, like told me to hold it on and had him come up, go ahead and take his copay real fast. They booked a follow up, and then she finished with me. But in that instance, like that would have been a perfect opportunity to just say, hey, do you just want to charge it to your card on file? And if he said yes, like you said, wave, head on
yeah.
out the door. You're good. And you want to schedule your follow up now? Do you want to schedule another cleaning now or later? I'll schedule it later. I'll call in for it. Or even if they did go ahead and grab that real fast, now you don't have to worry about the payment piece. And it's just one more out the door. And it's some patients, no pun intended, have a lot of patience, and some don't, depending on what they have going on
Yeah.
that day. One more thing that creates a seamless process, and people aren't dreading going to the dentist because they're like, oh my gosh, it takes forever. I'm going to have to wait. It's like, no, it's in and out. I know I'm going to be treated well. And it just makes a difference.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And the other thing is when you said, we can call you later to schedule a patient, just real quickly, if you're doing that as a dental office, you're missing out that you should be having that patient already scheduled back in the back for the next appointment. So you should never have to worry about letting them go out the door either. So that's just
Yeah,
another thing.
that's
It's
why
like,
that's why people learn from you, right?
yeah.
That's what's that. Exactly.
Okay, so when it comes to patient experience, though, once again, too, as I go back into the dreaded, we talked the third thing, the dreaded collections, right? Because we once again with our coaching, we a lot of times run across offices that have people that oh, they feel bad, they don't want to ask this, different things like that, but it's also the frustration is if they don't ask or that patient that they can see they're getting fidgety so they just let them go and I'll call them later and we see this all the time where you get ARs that are just gigantic once again like explain well I mean give a little bit more insight on that for the team wise of what ease of use it is going to be for them to be able to give that patient
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, totally. Because that's the other end of it. If it's making things complicated for the back office, it's like almost not worth it. And that's sometimes a trade-off that we see is that if you don't have a company that can kind of bring all this into one solution, then if you end up having like 3, 4 different like softwares, 3 different types of text that you're trying to use, and people are trying to keep up with it. It can get really confusing. In addition to, obviously, if you don't have these things, then the AR can build up. So I think naturally offering multiple payment options does help cut down on that. Text to pay, email, and then of course being able to just take a quick card right there. All those things help. One thing that has also been very helpful is having like a balance collect, like sending somebody an online payment link that they can go ahead and finish to pay for that balance. And we kind of touched on that earlier, but another aspect of that is sometimes insurance comes back and it's like you owe the 17 cents, you owe the $70, whatever it
Mhm.
is. And to be able to have something quick that someone can click on, pay it, and it brings up a secure page, they put in their credit card number and they're done. It that removes some of the friction, which cuts down. And if it's a week or 2 weeks, normally you get that. Well, that's a week or 2 weeks that you have that cash coming in. So it helps with the cash flow delivery, in addition to just customer experience. Same thing with text to pay, same thing with having the vault on file. I mean, having the card on file is huge because that is an opportunity where if the customer gives the okay, you can just go ahead and run the card right away. You're not waiting 1, 2, 3 weeks to finally get the income, which when you do that, you're really actually becoming a bank because
I
the service was performed 3 weeks ago. And now when you're just paying it today, well, you're banking for that customer. You're loaning them a 3 week loan or a 1 month loan, or I mean, something, and forbid a 2, 3 month loan, or all that can be right in there. Additionally, we do have the integrations to be able to offer, the different solutions that can give some type of a payment term. Or if you even just want to split payments up and set like I'll do half now and half later, which again is kind of banking the customer. But so we do know some practices that they've had somebody for a long time, they want to be flexible, they can do that. Or if the customer literally wants to have a payment plan, to be able to have that fully integrated all into one solution. Um, with our bridge payments, what it actually allows the practice to do is it's all in one solution. So what that means is when a payment's processed, it actually reports back to the practice management software. And we can work with most all practice management softwares that are on a Microsoft computer. They literally just pull up a screen, everything's in one software, and it will communicate back both ways. And so that way, their practice management is going to show that this was actually paid. There's no manual process. You're not writing something down on a sheet of paper. It is going to talk seamlessly to that software. So that way you can make sure that your AR is actually up to date. But I think all these like we talk a lot about the patient experience, but the other side of this is all of this, not only is it making a happier customer, but it's allowing the practice to get paid quicker. And that's huge.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing is what is exciting about with the Blueswipe is the fact that you guys have all those options because there is doctors out there that with that flexible payment is going to be something that and there's certain doctors out there that are never going to give that up to their patients. That's just their belief, and that's fine. The problem or the thing that I always see, and the thing that I like with you guys that you've put it all under one umbrella because to have text to pay, to be able to have flexible payment, to do some of these things. There's a lot of offices out there, I guarantee you right now, have two, three, maybe four, five different softwares and that to do some of these things. And I think that that's the real important thing to look at is it's trying to always, put this down. I was going to bring it up to you, but you took it, you ran with it, and I'm glad that you did. But the ease of you being able to get into the practice management softwares,
Yeah.
that once again, there's a lot of companies out there that they can only get into so many, the few big ones, Open Dental, EagleSoft, Dentrix type thing. And to know that you guys can get into those. And I think it's important too, when you said Windows computer, I know that my team asked when we were getting introduced to all your systems and stuff, they asked cloud-based or does it have to be server-based? And you said Windows computers, which was huge because the cloud-based companies out there like the Curves and the Dentrix Ascends, you guys are able to get in there. And I think once again, that patient experience is that patient and if I look at myself, how long do I have to sit and wait while these people are playing around and clicking and dragging and stuff, right? I mean, that to me is the big deal.
Yeah, it's speed. And then, of course, it's reconciliation on the back end. It's less time that the office staff has to spend doing all these manual things. I mean, digitizing invoices to speed up AR is also huge versus having to have it paper mailed out. We can do digital invoices and it's one more thing, saves money, it's faster. A lot of times people discredit, I think, the simplicity of little things like that when your credit card processor can talk to your practice management software and you're not having to reconcile two different functions together. Well, that's one less task that could be, maybe 15 minutes a day if you're, double checking things. Well, it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you add that up over the course of a year, it actually adds up to a decent amount of time. When you look at the training time of bringing somebody else new in, these little things that can steal 30 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour here and there, you add it over the course of a year, and all of a sudden it's now a tremendous amount of time that isn't spent on patient experience, that isn't spent on things that could maybe be more income generating or more significant to the practice. And I think that actually even leads to, back office retention and less headache for the folks that are actually handling all of these functions. Like when it's simple for them and they're happy and they're not frustrated and they're not flustered trying to, manage three different things, write stuff down, reconcile, get the credit card, make sure the patient's happy, and they can just clearly focus on one thing at a time. That in and of itself leads to better just patient experience because people can sense that there's not tension, there's not stress, like it's very seamless. And then of course, turnover obviously happens, people retire, people move away, people get married, and you have to fill that role. And now if you can seamlessly train somebody into that role, then again, it's a time thing. You're saving so much time to focus on the aspects of the business that actually matter the most.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with you, and that's episode 2 right there because just because we can go down a rabbit hole there again. So that's episode 2. But I will say that is, I think the thing that I love about you guys that I noticed is whenever I've dealt with merchant service companies, it's always about the dollar, right?
Yeah,
What
right.
is the savings? And I think that anybody that's listening out there right now, you guys have built this, I feel like from the opposite side. You guys are looking at what is all of the costs. So when I was in a dental supply rep, I'll tell you, Tim, I always said, that you had the reps that would go in and say, give you 10, 15% off catalog price, right? And I always was the guy who went in and said, listen, you're running at 9% and you should be running at 5%. So it's the cost of doing business. It's not price, it's the cost of doing business. What are all the things that you're missing out on that you're not getting free goods? You're not doing this, you're not doing that. Your efficiencies. This is where I think you guys are, once again, why I love you guys and how it turned. You've turned it from the opposite direction. You guys are looking at everything that we talked about, this patient experience. No one talks about patient experience. It's the price. It's like I can save you, a buck a month or a buck a day if you switch over to me. But in the meantime, they don't have text to pay, different things like that. And I think that's where people need to know that's listening to this, and why we wanted to focus on this episode, the patient experience, because you're looking at the cost in my aspect of things versus the price.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I would totally agree with that. And I appreciate that, by the way. I appreciate the compliment. And what's wild about that is, as you have learned, because you've obviously referred us, your own personal dentist and others, uh, we actually can't save people money a lot of times in this space. It is, unfortunately, there's a big player, which I won't say their name, that does oftentimes charge 7-8%, which is just egregious when it comes to pricing. And we can so easily oftentimes come in, we're dropping the cost by 50, sometimes 60%, in some of these really high cases like that. Yet the real value add, I don't think, is the savings. It's everything else that we just spent the episode talking about. And so price is important, but I think it's secondary to back office simplicity and efficiency, and also the patient experience and how they're going to feel catered to, because you're building a relationship with that patient for 10, 20, 25, 30, 40 years, maybe multiple family members, multiple generations. So how do you create something that they feel completely taken care of? And these little simple technology stacks, it's funny, maybe it's a good kind of wrapping up point, but I remember I think it was the last episode that you did where you talked about starting a practice from scratch and how important it was to think about building that dream team, whether it's the legal, the accounting, having a good financial planner that actually understands your world. Well, I would also add in there, it's so important to have your payment processor and your softwares all in that same category. And that doesn't just necessarily mean that they have lots of dentists that they've worked with, but they have solutions that are tailored to how a practice needs to run and how a patient wants to be catered to. And I think that's part of building that dream team that makes everything else run so smoothly. And at the end of the day, the way that we get paid is through the payment processor, right? Like that is the conduit to that the transaction is going to happen if it's not coming from insurance. And so it's so important that this aspect is really going to be buttoned up and it's going to provide the experience that you want representing your practice.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt. And I think that was, I mean, that's the big key for me. I mean, Class Solutions, you guys, once when we met with you guys and the relationship that we've had now for a while is because of the solutions based, right? That's what we're trying to do, educate. We're trying to make sure that people can see that there's solutions out there that can take care of more than just one thing at a time, or maybe they just don't even know that the solution exists. We're now trying to do that to the point, if I may, say that we have some pretty good big news for us on Class Solutions because we believe in you guys so well, and what you guys do and what you've done for our patients. We actually have now announced Class Pay to all of our clients and so forth, which is powered by Blueswipe because of the solutions that you offer and give. So we can't thank you enough on that end of things either.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're honored, and it's been so fun being able to build out something custom just for your clients and the practices that you work with. But that's the biggest stamp of approval that we could have is that you guys would want us to build out a custom solution just for your patients, which I think is going to be, it'll be really fun to maybe do an episode a year from now and look at all the success stories and the impact that's been created from it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and we can't thank you enough either because, like I said, met with many, talked to them all the time. No one came ever has come to us with a solution-based product, and it just fit so well with what we do and stuff. And just honored to have you guys being the engine that drives that. So really appreciate it. Well.
Thank
That's enough probably for this episode. But now, just so everybody knows, the next episode, we're going to get more into the streamlining of the office workflows, different things like that too. So I know we talked more about the outer patient experience. Now we touched a little bit about the back end things, but we're going to dive into that a little bit more on another episode that we're going to have real quick soon. Also, everybody needs to know that we also are going to be having a webinar, and that webinar is going to be with Blueswipe going in even more depth on February 21st. So everybody mark their calendars for that, and be on a lookout for all of that. That is will be coming soon. So you ready for that one too, Tim?
Yeah, looking forward to that a lot.
Yeah,
We can
it's going
definitely
to be fun. I love the fact it's one of those things, podcasts, yeah, we can get over some things, but the webinar to be able to get into it a little bit deeper and stuff, I think people are going to be really see the wow factor. And I think once with that webinar too, when you get to show them some of the stats and stuff that you guys are doing across the board with all the solutions that are tied into your system, I think it's going to be, I think there's going to be an eye opener. So everybody should be prepared for that one.
Yeah, we're pumped to be able to do it, honored to be able to do it, and I think it'll be eye-opening. And again, it's we really try to keep like the mission first of like, okay, how do we help practices accomplish these basically solve problems that normally are just left undone, and it makes a big difference. And that way, when you're on your vacation, the last thing you're thinking about is how things going at the back office, and you can even pull up your reporting, you can see it all there, and you know things are getting taken care of successfully. So it'll be fun to be able to go deep and show people, okay, this is how we actually do that. This is what it looks like. You can actually see some actual visuals, do maybe like a live demo so people can see how it all works. And I think once you see the inner workings of how it all comes together, it's like, it's like, how do we how do we run a practice without this? At least that's my opinion. So
Yeah, absolutely. So keep a lookout for that. That'll be starting to get broadcast out through social media and everywhere else as well. So I guess I want to say thanks, Tim, for coming on to the podcast today. Once again, we're going to have a part 2 for this. It was, I think, wonderful though that we got to look at merchant services in a whole different light, and it wasn't about, once again, that price, but it was about the patient experience. And that was because of you saying, bringing that up to me, saying that this is what I would like to talk about, because and you're right, it's never brought up, and I think it's very important. So thank you once again for being on today.
yeah, honored to do it. Thanks for having us on.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed our show today, please rate, review us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Phil Cole with Class Solutions. Thanks for listening. Everybody have a great day.